Come on in, take your front seats, and let's get ready for the show that we deserve. Right? Hi Nishant, says Mr. Abhishek Sharma. Good morning, Mr. Sharma. How are you doing? Can you hear me? If you can hear me, say something, and then we will begin the show that we deserve. The show that we deserve. We deserve it. Good morning. You are not yet live on LinkedIn. Oh, yes. I'm just going there in a second. So I'll be live on LinkedIn in like 5 seconds, hopefully. And then LinkedIn will have the show that we deserve. Yes, you're audible. Thank you. Thank you for that. That's gonna help. So let me just be live on LinkedIn. It'll take like a couple of seconds more, I guess. View on LinkedIn. Yeah, just 1 second. So LinkedIn takes some time. LinkedIn has some sort of delays which we need to experience, unfortunately. But you seem to be a new joiner. Are you joining for the first time? I've not heard from you before. Well, that's nice. Yeah, I'm live on LinkedIn as well. So we can begin. We will begin the show that we deserve. Bum bum bum. Yep, live first time, but I do watch later. Oh, okay. Live is always more fun. Live is always more fun. We can talk, we can ask questions. It's just a very fine discussion which happens live. Anyway, let's go. Bum 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 bum. It's so funny always. Uh, Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We're working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, everybody. Well, not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines, things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go! Oh, but before we go, you gotta follow a tradition, right? You know the tradition? The sweet and sacred tradition of the simultaneous sip. We'll all sip something together and it'll bring us good luck, as it always does, without fail, every day. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a copper mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice, a stein, a canteen jug, a flask, or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. I like some hot water with black pepper in it. And here we go! My god, that was healing. Let's do it again. Beautiful. Sublime. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? You know what it says? It says that you are not alone. It says that we are in this together. And that's such a beautiful thing to say. With that out of the way, let's begin. Mr. Raju Kumar says, Abhishek Sharma, do you play cricket India versus Pak? Is that a cricket joke? I'm sorry, yeah, but moving on. Yesterday we predicted that Indian IT shares are gonna fall because of the uh, H1B news that's gonna hurt Indian IT, at least in the short term. A lot of people thought that it's priced in already, but I said it's not priced in. How would it be priced in? Who saw this coming, right? You couldn't have priced in an H1B attack on Indian IT. That was new. So it was not indeed priced in, and Indian IT went down. Infosys Tata Consultancy Services declined between 2 to 3%. and the Nifty IT index tumbled nearly 3% against 0.5% decline of Nifty. So Indian IT stocks absolutely declined as predicted, and we also thought that it should also affect the US tech stocks, right? But that didn't happen. So US tech stocks didn't go down, they just went up. And it says that they have a lot of things working for them, which is okay, which is obvious, right? The AI news, the Nvidia essentially investing $100 billion in OpenAI or something. A lot of money Nvidia is looking at investing in OpenAI. So US tech has a lot going for it, but Indian IT definitely fell as predicted. Speaking of the predictions, we also talked about. Did you check the Ether stock yesterday? Again, 4% up. Now Ether is, I'll have to check Ether's price. Ether share price. It's 592. Okay. Ether is at 592. When we first talked about Ether, it was at 320. So it's almost doubled. When did we talk about Ether first? I guess 2 months ago, right? So in 2 months, the Ether valuation has doubled, essentially doubled. Now, if you followed that prediction and if you actually made money because of that prediction, well, congratulations, right? But if you didn't, don't worry at all, because the market keeps presenting you with opportunities. The fundamentals need to be clear. As you know, that margin call dialogue we keep bringing up. Why do I make the big bucks? Because I can see the music playing the next day, the next week, or the month ahead in the future, right? And what we talked about was that Ether at the time was valued at $1.2 billion when Ola was at $2 billion, right? And their sales numbers had collided. Now, when sales numbers have collided, there is no reason that a company would be valued so less and the company would be valued so high, right? And Ola's sales numbers were declining, Ether's sales numbers were picking up, and we said there's going to be a flip of valuations. So right now, Ether is at a market cap of approximately $3 billion, right? If you look at it very carefully, it's 22,422 crore, right? 22,000 crore, it's almost $3 billion. 3 billion is 25,000 crores or something of that sort. So maybe 10% more. And Ola's market cap is also 24,000 crores. So that point is near when Ether and Ola are absolutely equal in market cap. And this is exactly what looking into the future is, right? Looking into the future is finding out that something that the market has not seen as yet. So at that time, just 2 or 3 months ago, the market didn't see that Ether should not be such a laggard valuation wise, and Ether has potential to actually triumph a very big erstwhile market leader, right? And we saw that, and that inefficiency of the market, we could benefit from it. But if you didn't, it's okay, it's fine. You know, we're gonna have many opportunities to look into the future. But fundamentally, you should know what we talk about, because that's very important. It's not just Ether. We also talked about Urban Clap, right? If you remember, if you read my article, I said it's very nice that these people are pricing them up themselves at $1.7 billion, because if they would have priced themselves at $2.5 billion, it wouldn't have been bad, right? It wouldn't have been a problem. And that's exactly what happened. So when they debuted, now Urban Clap is valued at like $3 billion, right? Essentially. So way to look into the future. I don't know what happens to me, you know. I start getting glares. I don't know. Anyway, so moving on. A lot of action as far as IT is considered, right? A lot of action as far as AI is considered. So Mr. Peter Thiel had predicted that Nvidia's monopoly in AI, right, is temporary. He called Nvidia a temporary monopoly, and he said that he was long term not that bullish on Nvidia because 90% of all profits, essentially 100% of all profits in AI were being made just by one company, and that was Nvidia. and it could not be impossible for other companies to catch up. And sooner or later in hardware, people catch up, and when people catch up, Nvidia's leadership position will get diluted, and when that happens, uh, Nvidia might just not be that attractive as a company as it is now. It's at the top of the world, it will not be at the top of the world. That's what Mr. Peter Thiel said. And while that has not happened yet, what has started happening is XPUs are kicking up from all directions. So there's a report which says uh, Google Trillium and Ironwood TPU is picking up. Uh, in 2018, GCP opened TPU use for third parties. 2026 TPU shipment forecast 2.7 million versus Nvidia's 9.4 million. Right. Then there's AWS Trainium and Inferentia, Meta MTIA, OpenAI Broadcom, Tesla Samsung, Huawei Ascend, and other challengers like Microsoft Maya, AMD, Intel Gaudi, and so on and so forth. So a lot of people right now, it's all just Nvidia. Every bit of money that AI makes, it goes to Nvidia. In fact, Nvidia makes so much money that if OpenAI has to buy more Nvidia chips, Nvidia needs to invest in OpenAI so that it can do that. So Nvidia invests in OpenAI so OpenAI can buy more chips from Nvidia. That's the scene with Nvidia right now. But Mr. Peter Thiel had long predicted that Nvidia's uh, leadership position is temporary. How temporary? He's not been proven right yet, but let's see what happens in the future, right? Moving on. Door open for laid off H1B techies. Professionals may get rehired back competitive offers. Well, that's okay. $100 billion invested by Nvidia in OpenAI, deploy 10 gigawatt of chips. So it's investing in the company and then deploying its own chips. How convenient. Similar is the case with Oracle, the whole deal which happened. And then, Twitter started making memes about how cyclical this transaction is, or how circular this transaction is, that OpenAI uh, becomes a cloud operator, right? And how does it become a cloud operator? It needs to get an order from Oracle becomes a cloud operator. How does it become a cloud operator? It needs an order from OpenAI. It can't get an order from OpenAI. So what it does is it invests money in OpenAI. OpenAI announces that it's going to buy Oracle stuff. Oracle share price goes up and gives that money. Their share price goes up. It's a pretty funny circular transaction which is happening in the world of AI right now. Uh, all depends on whether the money that is to be made in AI can go beyond Nvidia, because right now all the money that is being made by AI is going to Nvidia. So let's see if that pool can be actually shared, right? Instead of Nvidia investing in other companies just so they could buy its stuff. Moving on. Oracle Silver Lake amongst US TikTok investors. We've already covered this. We noted how TikTok was a tool of geopolitical influence, right? So we've always said it's good to analyze history as a process instead of pieces in a museum, right? It doesn't make sense to look at history as a museum piece on showcase, right? You just need to follow it as a process, a story. And TikTok became a very relevant tool. It became the centerpiece of Gen Z conversation. It left Meta behind, Instagram behind, as far as the cultural speak is considered. It became such an important tool that India had to ban it. It became a security threat. It became a national security issue for India, for US. Now US had a choice to actually ban TikTok. But instead of banning TikTok, it realized that TikTok has the potential to actually be a competitor to the existing monopolies of the social discourse that are Google and Meta. So it said that we won't ban TikTok, we would threaten banning it, but we want to buy it instead. So if we buy TikTok, a very valid competitor to Meta and Google will not be killed, and we'll have it as an option. Because what happened in 2020 is that uh, the leader of an opposition, leader of a political party, Republican Party, he was essentially banned from all social networks. He couldn't make an account on Facebook or Google or Twitter, right? And that's when they realized that, oh, we this is pretty concentrated. This power is very concentrated. So they said that instead of banning TikTok, we'll have TikTok as a competitor. Now, China didn't want to sell TikTok because TikTok is a very, very important tool for China. Now, why is TikTok an important tool for China? Of course, it's an 80, $100 billion company, but it's not money, it's more than money. What do you do to a country that you're competing with, right? You program, you can hurt the country by spoiling its youth with drugs, which China is doing. So China is exporting a lot of fentanyl to US, and American youth is just destroyed on fentanyl, right? A lot of overdoses, a lot of deaths, and so on and so forth, right? The next thing you can do is, instead of drugs, you can program the society using social networking. So a lot of people accuse China of tweaking its algorithm in a way that made people dumb. So if you use TikTok in China, it shows also all sorts of inventions and business oriented, inspiring stuff, intelligent stuff. But TikTok US is all about cringe nonsense, right? And they said that this is basically programming US youth, right? So it was very important for China. But now it's settled. So US is buying TikTok. Oracle is Larry Ellison. Larry Ellison is a Republican leaning person, Mr. Ellison. So that's what's happening. And not surprising, right? Not surprising at all. We talked about this. We said, why would China sell TikTok? There must be something that it'll definitely take something pretty valuable if it's giving away TikTok, right? And what did it take? US essentially blocked its supply of 400 million worth weapons to Taiwan. So did US trade Taiwan for TikTok? We'll never know. We'll never know. But it's very interesting. Just imagine, right? It's fascinating what has happened. So China is going to keep 20%. No, not the parent, Mr. Sharma. Not the parent. Just TikTok US. TikTok US. So they're going to have, you know, the full sale of investors is yet not finalized. It's going to be real household names. The agreement requires that all data on American users will be stored in US computing infrastructure run by Oracle. So ByteDance will own less than 20%, while TikTok US will be controlled by a mix of its existing US and global firms, as well as significant number of new investors. So that's what's interesting. So moving on. Mr. Putin has offered to extend nuclear arms control pact. It gets renewed at February, so he says this is a voluntary, let's say, it's a voluntary control that we have and we want to exercise it. It's basically a nothing burger. Moving on. Queues at car dealers, online cards piled high on day one. So of course that's the most important story. What happens to India's GST 2.0 consumption story, right? The country depends on the consumption play. We've talked about this enough. We won't repeat it, especially because we don't have a lot of new viewers, I think, right? So we've already talked about how consumption is deeply important for the country, for the government, and it's been going all guns blazing to spur up some consumption, right? And it has started showing effects, but not extraordinary effects, not something that's like, oh, it's beyond belief, right? However, in the car market, it's gotten beyond belief. So, Kia, Hyundai has recorded 11,000 record dealer billings on Monday, which is extraordinary. And there's a 151 traffic surge at Shadow Retail, 50% more small car bookings at Maruti Suzuki, and 40% jump on online orders, says Snitch. So there's something happening. But as far as retail is considered, people are confused because a lot of people are saying that people don't even know that this has happened. So people are thinking that this is a discount which these people have come up with. They don't know that it's GST and it's a major economic movement, right? People are unaware, and retailers are saying that they are unaware. What do we do? So this is when you step out of your bubble, right? Of hyper informed, let's say, people, you figure out that the world really doesn't give a shit about all these things. Right? The world has no clue. The world is high on Instagram reels because we don't have TikTok is banned in India. So Indians are just high on Instagram reels, right? And when they went to the retailers, a lot of retailers are saying that these people don't really know about this whole play. And retailers are also not sure on how to actually do everything because uh, they don't even know. So whatever information translation is supposed to happen, or information transfer is supposed to happen, it's not happened as yet as tightly as you would imagine. So that's pretty amazing. In the meanwhile, companies, right, because they are easy to control and they are big, they are actually changing the magic pricing. uh, Parley has reduced its Parley G 5 rupee pack to 4.45, right? Mondelez, the biggest confectioner. Parley is the largest food manufacturer in the country. Mondelez is the biggest manufacturer. Its toffees are coming down from 1 rupee to 88 paise, and so on. So it's fascinating what's happening. And then these people are asking that if we could just improve the grammage instead of doing this because it makes complicated, right? And UPI, they can actually still use UPI, but what if cash is the play? So a lot of interesting things happening as far as the whole market is considered. What I didn't expect, honestly, what I didn't expect was that these people are going to come up with saying, hey, people don't know about this. So a lot of people are coming on the doors and they don't know what's happening. Like, that's something pretty incredible. Sometimes you get so blinded with your own awareness, or let's say your own curiosity, that you expect others to be on the same page, right? But people don't give a shit, which is sort of bothering bothering industry. It's bothering retailers, it's bothering the industry. They're saying like, right now they don't know. So again, caution, optimism, but also nervousness, that this should pick up, right? This should pick up. But what if it doesn't? So that's what's going on. Moving on, ONGC directed to take charge of Vedanta oil block. Vedanta oil block is being taken over by ONGC. Now this proves to be another hurdle, a slight hurdle for Vedanta's demerger. It is quite surprising given the way everyone, government, companies are advertising this. Yes, exactly. That's what I was thinking, Mr. Sharma. Because if you look at what's happening, Mr. Modi came out of the blue and started giving a speech, right? Now that's supposed to be taken seriously, but Bachat Utsav and everything hasn't really rung a bell or hasn't really seeped in. But it's the first day, so let's see what happens, right? Speaking of ONGC, ONGC is taking charge of the Vedanta oil block. Now, Vedanta, if you remember this story, Vedanta was shorted by Viceroy. Viceroy is a shorting company like Hindenburg, right? And Viceroy had basically launched a short attack on Vedanta, and they had said that this company has a lot of problems, and but nothing had happened to Vedanta stock. And now they're back saying, hey, we saw this, right? ONGC has taken control of the Vedanta oil block. But Vedanta says it's not a problem because this particular oil field was not really moving anywhere anyway. So it doesn't affect us anyway. So Vedanta is a developing story. If you've been following, Vedanta was heavily under debt, and a lot of its debt was coming to maturity, and it looked like it won't be able to service it. Now Mr. Anil Agrawal said that it's no problem, but it was a problem. So a clever way where it sought to, let's say, rationalize the debt was demerge its companies. So you have 5 different companies all merged together, right? What you do is you demerge the company and raise money from it independently. Or what you do is you have subsidiary companies, you start paying yourself dividends, right? If you can pay yourself dividends, you can pay your debt, right? But what happens is there are other shareholders in that company, right? And they refuse for to that kind of a dividend play. So Vedanta was in trouble, but it looks like it's gonna be out of it because nothing has hurt it yet. So it looks like it's pretty bulletproof right now. Speaking of bulletproof, Google has faced yet another antitrust lawsuit in US about its digital advertising play. So people wanted Google to break up. People wanted Google to sell its ads manager kind of a play because being a monopoly was hurting a lot of companies. There was a lot of lawsuits. It got a 3.5 billion euro fine from EU, right? And yet another lawsuit in US. So let's see. Google has a very big legal team, so lawyers are gonna make money. I don't think anything is gonna happen to Google. Moving on, a lot of political chit chat which we best not discuss. But what Apex Court Supreme Court is saying is that it's time to decriminalize defamation. They say defamation cases are mostly BS, right? So let's decriminalize defamation. If you decriminalize defamation, there's going to be less litigation, that's for sure. Less litigation is always a good thing for the country because the courts don't waste time, the courts don't have a lot of overload. But if you decriminalize defamation, wouldn't it lead to a lot of defamation? Right? And if there is no deterrence to defamation, anybody could say anything, right? So maybe the court is coming from the perspective that let the market forces decide. So if somebody defames you, you defame them back. Or let's say you prove in the open market that it is indeed a lie. Don't come to the court for it. It's basically a few pending cases that have been going on, right? So if observation came from a bench comprising this while hearing a plea challenging the summons issued to online news portal in connection with the defamation case by Professor Amita Singh of Jawaharlal Nehru University. So professor of JNU filed a defamation court case and they're saying, I think it's time for I think it's time to just decriminalize it, the whole thing. Anyway, moving on. MEA worked weekend to win H1B relief. So, in the beginning, that guy is an asshole. Howard Lutnick, the Trump business secretary, commerce secretary, he said that, H1B is going to be a yearly fee for all the H1B applicants. It's not going to apply to the old ones, but the new ones, it's going to be yearly. A yearly affair, but then it turned out just the very next day that it's not a yearly thing, it's a one-time thing, and it's not going to apply to old people, only the new ones, and the people who have H1B do not need to worry, and so on and so forth. So it comes out that MEA worked the weekend to win that particular relief. So any MEA begged those guys, negotiated with them that, hey, please don't do that, and so on and so forth, and that's what led to reversing of that particular stance. How does that make you feel, guys? India was the largest beneficiary of H1B, 71% of visas, low salary holders still risk losing out. What do you feel about that? That India actually went out of their way to stop the H1B guys from getting screwed, right? So India actively fought their way to get H1B sorted. So that people could actually, the people who've left the country don't come back or don't have to come back in a haste, right? What does that say? That's a pretty interesting development, right? But it is what it is. Mr. Sharma says, it's good as long as there is no major trade-off. Well, there is always a trade-off, right? Nothing comes for free, especially from Trump, right? If you read Art of the Deal, nothing comes for free. Redevelopment reform stops at 1 lakh crore of new urban fund. So new urban fund, it's looking at a $12 billion play where they're looking at cities, bad buildings, old buildings, government properties, unused buildings. They're looking at redevelopment of that, right? A lot of involvement of private sector. Unlike earlier, previous missions, the center will only fund 25% of the project cost, and remaining will need to be borne by the state and private partners, right? So the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs has formulated guidelines for Urban Challenge Fund, fund seen as the next big central assistance for urban transformation of cities. Well, God knows that we need urban transformation. 10,000 crore earmarked this fiscal with an initial 500 crore outlay. So that's what's going on. Projects to be implemented by PPPs, public private partnerships. No surprise. Public building, old prison complexes, abandoned buildings repurposed to cater to cities' current needs. Well, drainage and so on and so forth. Moving on. This is very important. But seems too little too late, don't you think? Not too late, but too little. Anyway, moving on. Now, these analysts are saying H1B fallout likely to be modest. Add large cap ITs on weakness. So they're saying that you could start buying large cap IT stocks because they're weak and it's bottomed out. And this bottoming out is going to lead to more gains. Now, their perspective might be that about $13 billion worth of deals are going to come to renewal, and most likely they're going to get renewed and then some. And if everything gets renewed, right, and then they are being able to add some modest growth over it, since the whole sector is so lowly valued right now, it'll prove to be a good investment. That's their perspective. But what I have said is essentially, this is just playing with fire. It needs to be given some sort of Bahaduri Puraskar, because there are a lot of risks that are currently not visible, right? With the growth of technology, with whatever is happening with GCCs, with everything that is happening, there's a lot of risk that nobody can see right now, right? Like H1B, we didn't see that risk coming, right? Something like a big merger of a tech company with an IT company, and then massive adoption of AI into IT, or let's say massive paradigm kind of a shift as far as this whole play is considered outsourcing play. We don't know those things and how soon or how slowly they happen. So that risk sort of lingers on. So if you get invested in IT, you are exposing yourself to that risks. That risk. Now, maybe nothing happens, but if something happens, it's gonna screw everything up, right, for you. And while the valuations might look attractive historically, but what is to come has nothing to do with what has been historically true, especially this particular industry is considered. And that's what Mr. Nassim Taleb writes, right, in all his books. Black Swan, Anti-Fragile, Fooled by Randomness, Skin in the Game, that you don't know what the tail risk entails. So, and you don't know when it happens, when you see a black swan, essentially, right? And all you can do is prepare for that eventuality, that okay, this is, what if this happens, what if this is at like a 1.1% chance, but it is a solid chance, and if this happens, I'm going to be screwed, right? What if that is the case? That's the principle of insurance, essentially. So buying IT would be going against the principle of insurance. Mr. Abhishek Sharma writes, but these players can always evolve given they have money and ride the new wave, be it AI or anything else. Well, it's not that simple. Mr. Vishal Sikka wanted Infosys to change back in 2016, right? He was the one person who had invested in OpenAI back in 2016 as a part of Infosys grant, right? And he wanted to productize Infosys. What happened? He was kicked out. And then he was brought on. Mr. Narayan Murthy brought somebody who just kept business as usual. So companies which have been gone on for 40 years and they have kept business as usual, they have not really changed in essence in any way for 40 years straight, right? This industry has been going on since 1981, right? You can't expect them to pivot all of a sudden. Now they're trying to pivot, $280 billion industry going into semiconductors and whatnot. They're trying to go to serve GCCs, right, in a build, operate and transfer model, and a lot of things that they're trying. But essentially, the core business, if it gets hurt, it's not going to be the same industry, and you don't want to expose yourself to that risks. So this is these guys. Let's see what happens. I say no, they say yes. Let's see what happens. This is the same thing that happened earlier, right? When did this happen? Yeah. So these people said similar report. Brokerages said earnings hit for Indian ITs is likely to be modest and largely offset by higher offshoring, and they had given, right? Nomura says this, these guys say this guys say that. So these people had said a lot of things, right? And earlier they said that about defense, right? So what they said was that defense is not gonna be green, okay? And I had said it's their word against mine. Let's see what happens. And you know what happened with defense, right? You seen defense stocks lately? Moving on. Mr. Tushar Tiwari says IT companies are sitting on cash. They could buy other product companies. Yeah, but not all mergers work equally, right? And their M&A activity, their startup investing activity has been bleak to say the least, right? So with history as your guiding principle, so this is what there's a book on it, very important. It's called Innovator's Dilemma. Okay, so Innovator's Dilemma says that it's very difficult for an incumbent to shift to another place, right? Even when its core business is getting hurt because of a new technology or of a new paradigm, it's not easy for an incumbent to shift. Now, why it is not easy for an incumbent to shift? You might ask, right? Now, it's easy to blame somebody, right? It's easy to blame, oh, these guys are stupid, they couldn't evolve. Kodak is stupid, it couldn't evolve, or all the companies that have been, washed away because of a technology trend. Kodak invented digital cameras, man, right? They were not stupid, but they were very, very dependent on that particular business, right? There were millions and millions of retail outlets who essentially did that Kodak film printing business, right? Now, Kodak shifting to digital print meant saying an FU to all their retail partners. So they tried to pivot, they tried to manage digital with, print. And it became but because they had to manage it, they had the baggage of success, of unprecedented success, right? And that success was working for them, that was making them money. So with what face do you go with your older partner and say, hey, our partnership is now screwed, we are going to go digital, screw you and everybody else, right? It becomes very difficult for that company to do that. Similarly, IT has been making money, a lot of money, through whatever it has been doing for a very long time and for a lot of people, right? So it has a lot of people, it has a lot of customers, it has all those people paying it even now. So the incentive to radically shift its business model while existing is not that strong to essentially just change it from the core. So that's why you don't see all these companies changing like that, right? You don't see, what can be a good example for this? A lot of examples. Basically, Innovator's Dilemma is the name of the book. Moving on. SEBI moves to fix glitches in online trading platforms. Rules. Brokers over 10,000 clients will need to abide by some parts, some rules and regulations. Moving on. A tax break or more flows into FOFs till August 3x of FY25 numbers. Retail investors are piling into fund of funds, lured by tax breaks, built-in diversification, and ease of tapping multiple funding managers through single product. Data showed inflow of 28,000 crore. So that's huge. That's huge, right? Indian retail investors are not stopping at all. And a lot of people have said that that's good. That's a good thing that Indian retail investors are participating in what is called as nation building, right? Equity investing, nation building. Moving on. Flipkart and Amazon have shown some good numbers, right? Clothing industry. The hotel guys are not raising their prices. So hotel prices 7,500 rooms up till 7,500, 5% GST, that's great. So they're not raising their prices, which is okay. Performance linked EV battery cover in the works. So this is again an ongoing development. Everything is an ongoing development. Everything is a process, right? If you view things as a process, it helps to predict. By the way, Mr. Musk said that predicting the future is the true test of intelligence, right? And that's what we do here at Thinkers Frequency. We try to predict the future. We are, it's a skill. We believe it's a skill, and we are working on that skill every day. And what we want to do is we want to predict future. But forecasting, AI based forecasting is starting to beat humans. So they did a test where AI forecasters and human forecasters judged a bunch of events, right? 26 or so, and AI forecasters proved to be more uh, accurate with their predictions about the future. So if predicting future is the only true test of intelligence, as Mr. Musk says, and if AI is essentially getting better than humans as far as predicting the future is considered, or forecasting is considered, does that mean that it's already smarter than humans? An interesting thought. But anyway, we digressed. Performance linked EV battery cover in the works. So, insurers are designing specialized motor vehicle covers to guard owners against battery underperformance. So, we talked about how EVs have a special problem when it comes to insurance and its coverage, because what happens is uh, IC engine insurance just takes a few hours, maybe like 30 minutes to get cleared, right? If you get, but EV is not so much, because EV is the bulk of the value of the EV is in its battery, and it's hard to cover the battery performance as an insurance play, because there's something called uh, what is it, SOH, state of health, right? Battery state of health. And if battery state of health goes down by some percentage, it should be liable for a cover, right? But until now, it's a very gray area. So insurers are working on that. Without an insurance cover on battery uh, problems, right? Let's say EVs will never become mainstream in the country. And as soon as this particular play is worked out, as soon as insurance have figured out how to make money on battery and insurance and using batteries and replacing batteries and whatnot, if consumers can be assured that if the battery screws up, it'll be no problem from insurance, then you will see EVs clicking it in India. So right now EVs are at 4%, 4.4% in India. Once this particular play is good, right, you'll see EVs jumping, like literally going up the cliff, because this is the biggest impediment for EV adoption. Let's say you buy an EV and then you get screwed, right? And people do get screwed, by the way, not just in two-wheelers but even in four-wheelers. They buy EVs and then their batteries give up on them and then they cry, right? But nobody listens to their bitching and moaning. Anyway, moving on. So this could be very good news for EV makers. These new age covers will come in EVs. Battery related products will become bigger, unlike IC vehicles where engine is rarely treated separately. Okay, battery as a service. Insurers are also looking at battery as a service model that automakers are experimenting with, seeing it as a potential way to lower upfront cost for consumers. So this could be the inflection point. Nobody's seeing it that way. Nobody's seeing it as a big thing, right? It's just business as usual for everybody. But this is the inflection point for EV adoption in the country if this happens. So are designing right now, it's present tense, are designing, present continuous. Well, have designed. When it comes to, then everything is gonna change. Moving on. IndusInd Bank has named Viral Damania as CFO. Viral, I read it as viral. Viral Damania. IndusInd Bank is, of course, you remember, a very troubled bank led by Hindujas. We've discussed it a lot, so we won't repeat ourselves. Moving on, IT portal's glitch triggers penalty woos for companies. So IT portal glitched right? Infosys developed this, it didn't work. At the end, it just fell apart. Now, delays on that filing, on that advance tax, lead to penalties for up to 3%. Like 1% delay leads to 3% of penalty for the tax payer, right? And now this is going to be a litigation thing. So now these people are lawyering up, saying that, hey, we were at that portal and we couldn't log in and we couldn't pay the tax, and now because it's become late, not due to our fault but due to somebody else's fault, because of your portal's fault, why should we pay the penalty, right? Now that is another lawsuit. So a lot of petitions are going to be filed, from companies, and let's see if the government just chooses to let all of these petitions go and extend the date, right? That could be a way. Otherwise, you know who'll make money, right? You know who'll make money? Advisors urge CBDT Finance Ministry to waive penalties on payments initiated on or before September 15th. Some may file writ petitions. So, some numbers. The interest charge for late payment is of 1% a month. Since advance tax is paid every quarter, even a day's delay places an interest burden of 3% on taxpayers. For several companies, this could be close to 1 crore or more. So, you know who makes money, right? If this doesn't get sorted, if this isn't nipped in the bud right as we speak, right? Lawyers are gonna make money. Moving on. SR is gonna invest 900 crore in expanding its LNG network, a liquid nitrogen, liquefied natural gas. Moving on, Ujjwala Yojana gets a 676 crore boost, right? Additional 676 crores. Ujjwala Yojana is a very key scheme for the government because uh, litigation lawyers ninja technique for making money. Yeah. So Ujjwala scheme has been talking about, it's been very, very effective in, first of all, mainstreaming electricity, lights, and also reducing the spend, right, on electricity. So that's particularly going on. Smart meters are looking at a lot of traction in India. We discussed smart meters. We discussed why they are pushing on smart meters, because they need to make the grid smart. They need to save whatever they can save as far as energy is considered, because India imports a lot of crude, right? And that sort of screws everything up for India. And that's been the single-minded focus of Mr. Nitin Gadkari, saying that if we can just reduce the crude spend that we do in this country, which drains our capex, sorry, forex, which draws our economy down, which increases our import bill, we could go up, right? Speaking of Mr. Gadkari and how he's been talking about imports and how the government has been talking about reducing imports, Mr. Modi has been talking a lot about Swadeshi. He says, be proud of buying Swadeshi, be proud of selling Swadeshi, be proud of essentially being a customer. So following his speech, Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav, what he did was, he announced that Indian ministry is going to be using Zoho's office suite. In a bid to promote homegrown products and services, Electronics and IT Minister Mr. Vaishnav on Monday said he's switching to using Zoho, right? Said that he will be using Chennai-based Zoho's office platform for documents and so on and so forth. Called upon others to follow Prime Minister's this. So this is yet another signal. And I had said, if you remember, like a couple of months ago, maybe a month ago, that we are really losing out on AI, right? We lost out on the internet wave. We got colonized by US and even China for a brief period by all their tech companies ruling. So whatever we use right now, we are using all foreign companies. We don't have one tech product in the consumer internet space which is mainstream or which has been exported. Thankfully, we got caught on the smartphone wave. So our food delivery app is Indian. Our cab app was also Indian, is also Indian, so on and so forth. But we've been at the mercy of these companies, and AI is that opportunity where we could use our huge market to essentially take the lead, right? Now, if Mr. Vaishnav says that Zoho will be adopted by the all the ministries of India as the primary email vendor, right? Or sheet vendor, or basically office suite vendor. uh, how good it would be if government said that we are going to use a domestic AI uh, compulsorily across ministries. So instead of Perplexity or ChatGPT or Gemini, we'll have this particular thing for free. So free subscription for all government employees of this particular AI, let's say Servom or whatever, right? That could essentially have some sort of traction, and then the country could also have telcos tying up, like Airtel tied up with Perplexity. Government could have Vodafone India tie up with its own, some domestic AI player, and that could be one paradigm that we don't lose, because India right now is just a data farm for all these LLM companies, right? So Mr. Vaishnav saying that he's shifting to Zoho, although his shifting to Zoho has nothing to do with the entire ministries, right? But uh, let's say if the government can unite in the bid to actually start using Indian companies, and AI is that frontier. So forget about social networking. Social networking is yesterday, right? Nobody gives a shit about social networking. It's gonna get disrupted by AI anyway, right? So what if we have our AI doing, what it's supposed to? Mr. Abhishek Sharma writes, it ultimately comes to what are Indian players bringing up, compared to competitors. Well, that is true. That is true. But with that perspective, there's nothing as far as Chat GPT and Gemini and Grok, uh, you know, the differences between them. So there's virtually indistinguishable. All of these players are sounding more and more close to each other, right? And if that's the play, the real differentiator is the distribution. So if somebody gets the distribution right and it gets the access to market right, it could be beneficial for the country, because you don't want to be a data harvesting nation like 1.4 billion people mindlessly adding data to ChatGPT if you could have something else, right? So that's what the government is trying with a lot of its efforts. Let's see what happens. Moving on. PhonePe has cut losses 40%, revenue up 7,000 crores. Still a loss, right? 1,700 crore loss. PhonePe has been a fascinating company. Uh, it's been a very strategic asset. Strategic asset. It doesn't make money, but it's been very important. So Flipkart bought it, never made money, but it was becoming very important. Then Walmart bought Flipkart. It was still an important company. It beat Paytm, everybody else. It's left everybody in the dry, right? Then it became such a strategic asset that Walmart spun it off and it's now IPOing it separately, because it's going to be valued at, let's say, more than Paytm right now. So it's been a very strategic asset. It's just time will tell whether it can also have like a bottom line to show for, right? Which I'm sure it's not going to be hard, because there's no hurry. Walmart has a lot of money. Moving on. Upskilling companies tailor courses as H1B fee hike upends plans. Well, that's okay. Speaking of Indian government and AI, government AI framework may favor tech secretariat over a regulator. So a regulator is what regulates, right? They define rules and regulations and everything. A secretariat is what draws the guideline without any power to actually enforce regulations. So they draw guidelines, but they don't stop people from doing something, right? So it's essentially deregulation, but uh, guideline writing. Now, why do you think is the government going for a secretariat and not a regulator? Why do you think? I'll repeat the question, very important question. Think about it carefully. Why do you think the government is picking on a secretariat route instead of a regulator route when it comes to domestic AI policy? Can you think about it? I'll take a sip. I'll repeat the question. Why do you think is the government taking the tech secretariat route over a regulator route as far as uh, AI mission, or let's say AI framework, is considered? Can anybody think of it? In the meanwhile, Mr. Weber Manocha asks, thoughts on EdTech in 2025? Do you feel space left in upskilling domain? Oh, there's infinite space in upskilling. Infinite space in upskilling. Upskilling, India's skilling plays extraordinarily bad, right? As discussed, less than 10% people graduate the 12th standard, 50% people graduate 5th standard. Education is a problem. And then when it comes to upskilling, ITIs have not been very effective. Skill based people are very rare. India has two problems at once: companies can't hire, people can't find jobs. And the reason is not lack of employment opportunities, the reason is the skilling opportunity. The skilling is a very, very big problem, and it's just an unsolved problem, and it's been unsolved since forever, right? So that is, so Mr. Abhishek Sharma says more control over data. No, 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 less control. That's what the government wants. It wants to derelegate. It wants to stay out of the way of the AI journey, because it doesn't want to make the mistake it has made in every other thing, right? No country can afford to lose the AI ground, right? And the way to not lose the ground is just to stay out of the way. If the government can just stay out of the way, companies can work, companies can prosper. The biggest reason companies fall apart is because governments gets in the way. The biggest reason why IT could flourish in India was because by the time it was big, it was too late for the government. The government didn't know what to do with this, right? And then IT services became a huge industry, and by then it was just they didn't. The government thankfully couldn't stop IT. Otherwise, if Babus would have gotten in the way, they would have screwed everything up there as well, right? So that's what's happening, and government is very wise to not get into the way of AI, because if it does, if there are any sort of roadblocks to AI, everything is gonna get screwed, right? It basically we are already way behind. We're already way behind, right? And we'll just lose out on a lot if we don't catch up. Moving on. New MediaTek AI chip to take on Qualcomm is launching a processor more capable of handling agentic AI tasks, right? India's smartphone exports to US, its largest in August, 964 million. By the way, Indian smartphone exports to US have fallen down. And this is very counterintuitive. This is very surprising and distressing for everybody, because India's smartphone, they weren't a part of the tariff play, right? So why have they fallen down like 50%? Indian smartphone exports to US have fallen down 15% from July. 50. 50. Can you believe this? It's just extraordinary. And everybody's scared, right? Moving on. Business as usual for electronic stores. Shoppers just browse. We've talked about this. Vodafone Idea targets Satcom entry by 2026, seeks 5G tariff traffic rise 30%. Well, Vodafone India. Vodafone India is a dumpster fire truck on steroids, right? Moving on. Real estate hits a dull patch in H1. Real estate investment across 9 key APAC markets, including India, fell 6% due to global headwinds and trade uncertainty. So, moving on. We've talked about that. Yeah, so what I was saying was that India's smartphone exports to its largest market, US, fell 58%, not just 50%, from 2.2 billion, 2.3 billion, let's say, in May to 964 million in August. Now, it's alarming and counterintuitive. This demands an urgent investigation to uncover real reasons that are driving the fall, right? It was 2 billion in June, 1.5 billion in July. Tariff free, no tariff. Why hasn't it fallen down? Pharmaceuticals also weakened, with exports dropping 13%. So why are Indian exports to US of smartphones and pharma going down? Now they have not been tariffed. They are not in a problem. Why and how is it possible that smartphone exports are going down? Right? Isn't it just extraordinary? Whatever is happening. What do you think can be the reason? Do you have any clue? Is it possible that US has been able to diversify even like away from India, or US has been able to make its own stuff so quickly? That's not possible, right? But diversification, that's possible. Do you think China is essentially rerouting its supplies through other countries, effectively killing India? Right? Do you think uh, it's China essentially? Do you think there is a overall slowdown in American consumption, which is leading to, right, something in the domestic market? That's not true, right? Because US consumption is good, it's not fallen down, so it's not US consumption. I think what's possible is China rerouting its stuff through other markets, right? So these people are basically trying to find out. They say that we're going to have to really study it in depth, because if it gets screwed, a lot of things get screwed, right? The second order effects of this are going to be very, very weird. So that's what's happening. Let's see which countries prove to be stealing India's business. Moving on. EPFO puts on hold UPS for its employees. Even though they had approved it in February, matter still under consideration. India seeks WTO consultations with Indonesia on cotton fabric duty. So, India and cotton had an interesting history, right? India didn't used to import cotton because Indian cotton farmers, but Indian textile got tariffed. So Indian textile people said that you've got to import cotton, because if right now if you just take away those duties, we'll be able to get cheaper cotton, and then our product will be competitive in the global market, in the US market. And if it's competitive, we'll be able to, sell despite the tariffs. So India actually allowed that. India went ahead and cancelled its duties on uh, cotton fabric from US essentially. India on Monday requested consultations with Indonesia safeguard agreement concerning Jakarta's proposal to impose import duties on cotton fabric. So that is basically what India is saying, that hey, we took down duties, you please don't take it up, or something like that. Moving on, gold and silver hit record highs, strong global cues. We talked about this. We said what's gonna happen if US cuts rate, and I said gold is gonna go up. Gold is going up, not because of that reason. There are a lot of factors, but gold is still going up. Moving on, platform to track global mobility of skilled workers. Uh, India has a labor shortage. FICCI KPMG reports pegs labor shortage at 85 million by 2030. Moving on. Copper data cable imports from China under scanner. China makes more copper, more steel, more solar, more everything than everybody else combined, right? So India is investigating uh, whether those particular imports need to be curtailed, because if they're not, then Indian copper manufacturers essentially get screwed, right? Meanwhile, Mr. Minister Prahlad Joshi said GST on renewables are going to save 1.5 lakh. 1.5 lakh crore is about $18 billion. So the GST cut on renewables is going to save a lot of money. And India has been talking about renewables a lot, right? A lot. We've been talking about that, that there was a target that by 2030, some percentage of Indian energy is supposed to come from renewables, and we've already met that target. By 2025. So we are 5 years early. Was it the solar target? Do you remember? We talked about this. I'm just missing that fact. Was it 2025? 50% of Indian supply is gonna come from solar or something. That was the target that we met. I'm just missing out on the details. If somebody remembers, please remind me. Moving on. Yeah. So there's a news about Meta. There's a news about AI. A lot of uh, you know news as far as AI is considered. And one of the articles says that India do an Nvidia in India? So they're saying that there's a lot of semiconductor startups that have been invested in. Agrani Labs, they've raised 8 million, Seitu I Semiconductors 4 million, Netra Semi 13 million, Mindgrove 8 million, and so on. This is a lot. This is like extraordinarily little amount of money when it comes to a paradigm like that, right? So people are concerned on how India can also have its say as far as this whole in semiconductor play is considered. Now China has put its foot down. It says we don't want Nvidia chips anymore. We're gonna go with Huawei, and we're gonna make competing chips with Nvidia, and we're gonna match that play. So China has taken that position, which is scary, right? And maybe they're successful. India has also launched its semiconductor mission, but we are like 25 years behind, right? And ISM 1.0 had like 18 billion, 1.8 lakh crores mobilized. ISM 2.0, India Semiconductor Mission 2.0, is looking at mobilizing like 30 to 40 billion dollars. However, when it comes to this particular play, we are really looking forward to something which is absolutely miraculous. Like we had at least 7 to 8. So they're listing challenges, right? They're saying uh, while these are key developments buoyed by government initiatives such as design linked incentives, ecosystem is nowhere near China's, where companies like Alibaba, Huawei already have chips in production. Creating a semiconductor ecosystem requires deep pockets, risk private investors, and the government needs to step up investment, which has already happened but should happen and scale fast. Second biggest challenge is time. We are at least 7 to 8 years behind from having our chips. Vikram, the indigenous chip launched recently, is 180 nanometer, while the world has moved to 2 nanometers. So 180 nanometers, the world has moved to 2 nanometers. So you can imagine, right? Uh, yeah. So the market is expected to go to 110 billion dollars. We've talked about that. Yeah. Let's see what India is being able to do. We are so glad that we didn't listen to the likes of Raghuram Rajan, who said that India should just not get into manufacturing of semiconductors at all. Let's not spend like $10 billion at all. Don't do this, right? Why? Because India's strength is services. Just focus on services. Let other people make manufacturing, make stuff, right? That was his advice. Instead, if you want to do something in semiconductor, what you do is spend those $10 billion and distribute it to universities so a lot of research can happen. And what do you do with all those students trained? Well, I don't know. So they'll basically go to US after studying and doing all the taking on the research money. Yeah, sure, but that's gonna be better than making your own stuff. Now that was the advice of that guy, right? So we're glad to essentially not have listened to that advice, but uh, beginning with the semiconductor mission in 2020-21 might have been a bit late. With that, we come to the end of the fun 121st episode 121st episode of Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. It's 9:12, 9:13. We're gonna punch in anytime soon. I wish you a beautiful day, personally and professionally. I'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time, hopefully. I need to thank Mr. Abhishek Sharma. I hope you had fun, Mr. Sharma. I hope you all had fun. I hope it added value to you. It definitely added a lot of value to me. I learned a lot thanks to you. Thank you, Mr. Sharma. Mr. Kumar, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We've basically indexed all the episodes, all thanks to Mr. Kumar. Now you can go back to any episode and find out what we were discussing back then. It's gonna help you track our predictions and so on and so forth. All thanks to Mr. Kumar. And Mr. Kumar and I are cooking an interesting way of growing Thinker's Frequency. I'm deeply, sincerely, truly grateful to his contribution to this effort, right? Mr. Tiwari, thank you. And everybody else who joined. This is great. Some comments I missed, I guess. India to reach 50% of its installed electric capacity from non-fossil fuel by 2030. This has been achieved now. Oh yeah, thank you so much. That's exactly what we were talking about. 50% of the installed electricity capacity from non-fossil. That was a 2030 target. It's achieved in 2025. So yeah, thank you so much. Have a nice day and take care. I'll see you tomorrow, same place. I wish you a beautiful day personally and professionally. I'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time. Hopefully. Bye bye.